When my husband Mark told me he'd have to leave for 3 weeks on a work trip to Seattle, I tried to act brave. "It's okay," I said, smiling at him as he zipped up his suitcase. "You'll do great. I'll manage here." But deep down, I felt a flutter of anxiety. Our small town could feel so quiet when it was just me. Mark kissed my forehead. "You always do, Em. Don't worry about anything, okay? Call me if you need anything." I nodded, hiding the lump in my throat. He had to go. His promotion depended on it. Still, when the taxi drove off that morning and the street fell silent, the emptiness hit harder than I expected. The first few days passed quietly. I worked from home, took care of the plants, and cooked simple dinners. But as the days grew shorter and the evenings colder, the silence became heavier. I'd catch myself glancing at the door, half expecting Mark to walk in with that tired grin of his. It was on the 5th day that the storm hit. The wind howled through the trees, and rain pounded the windows so hard that the whole house seemed to shudder. I tried to keep busy, folding laundry, checking emails, but the flickering lights made me uneasy. Then, with a sudden pop, everything went dark. I sighed. "Perfect timing," I muttered, fumbling for my phone flashlight. The storm outside was fierce, thunder rolling like a growl across the sky. Just then, there was a knock at the door. My heart skipped. Who could it be at this hour? I peeked through the window and saw Jack, our neighbor from across the street, standing there in a raincoat, holding a small flashlight. I opened the door slightly. "Jack, what are you doing out in this storm?" He gave me a friendly smile. "Just checking in. The power's out on the whole block. Thought you might need a hand." His voice was warm, calm, like someone used to helping. Jack lived alone. He'd lost his wife a few years back, but everyone in the neighborhood knew him as the guy who always lent a ladder or shoveled someone's driveway without being asked. "That's kind of you," I said, letting him in. "I was about to check the fuse box, but I don't really know what I'm looking at." He chuckled. "Then let's take a look together." We went down to the basement, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Water dripped faintly somewhere in the distance, and I shivered. Jack found the circuit panel and inspected it. "Nothing serious. Just tripped from the surge," he said, flipping a switch. A few seconds later, the lights flickered back on upstairs. "Oh, thank goodness," I said, exhaling in relief. "You're a lifesaver." Jack smiled. "Just glad to help. It's no fun being stuck alone in the dark." I offered him tea as a thank you, and we sat in the living room while the rain eased up outside. It was the first real conversation we'd ever had beyond neighborly hellos. He told me stories about his late wife, about how she used to bake for everyone on the block. I shared how Mark and I had moved here to find some peace after the chaos of city life. There was something comforting about talking to someone who simply listened, no judgment, no rush. Over the next few days, Jack would stop by to check if everything was okay. When the storm knocked down part of our backyard fence, he showed up with tools before I even asked. "Can't let the wind win twice," he said with a grin. We spent a Saturday morning hammering, fixing, and laughing about how terrible I was at using nails. Later, I baked cookies as a thank you. When I brought them over, his face lit up. "These smell incredible," he said, taking one with genuine joy. "You just made my week." Days turned into weeks, and small gestures became quiet comforts. He'd help carry groceries from my car. I'd drop by with soup on cold days. It wasn't about favors, it was about kindness, simple and real. One evening, as I was cleaning up, Mark called. His voice, though cheerful, sounded distant through the static. "Hey, Em, how's everything?" "Good," I said. "Actually, our neighbor Jack helped fix the fence after the storm. He's been a big help." "I remember him," Mark said. "That's great. I'm glad someone's looking out for you there." Something about that conversation made me feel grounded again. This was what community was supposed to be, neighbors being there for each other, not out of obligation, but care. When Mark finally came home 2 weeks later, I ran into his arms at the door, relieved beyond words. The house felt full again. But there was also a new sense of gratitude in me, for Jack, for the quiet strength of people who simply show up when needed. That weekend, Mark and I invited Jack over for dinner. It was simple: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, laughter. "To good neighbors," Mark toasted, raising his glass. Jack smiled. "To good people." As I watched them talk and laugh, I realized something profound. Life isn't just about the big moments, it's built from the small ones, the ones when someone shows up during a storm with a flashlight and a smile. Even now, whenever thunder rolls in the distance, I remember that night, Not with fear, but with warmth. Because sometimes, the people who make the biggest difference aren't the ones who plan to. They're just the ones who care enough to knock on your door.